Welcome to the Retrospect podcast, a show where three guys come together from different walks of life and discuss a topic from their generation's perspective. My name is Ian, and as always, I am joined by X-Man.
Hey, everybody.
And Stoney.
Hello.
So I heard that this week we have a doozy. We got a big one.
It's an interesting topic, I think.
Okay. I can't wait to hear it.
But once again, we have three different views from three different generations and
Correct.
three different views from three different life statuses.
Right. I've heard this one's a handful.
Multiple handfuls.
Let me just tell you, Stoney and I actually have to meet on this about once a week.
Yes.
Okay, so what is the question?
The question today is, what are the trials, tribulations, and the rewards of parenthood?
Bum, bum, bum.
Oh, man. Parenthood.
Like, once again, we have the established family in X-Man.
Yes.
We have the pre-made family with me, and we have the alien family coming with you. And trust me, at times, you're going to feel like they're aliens.
Feels like I have two younger siblings, and sometimes just growing up with them felt like I was an alien in that household. So.
Yeah. You know, my first brush with parenthood was kind of crazy because I was, I was single. Everything was going, everything was about me and what I wanted, basically. Yeah. And so, but I was kind of in a good place, a good spiritual place with my,
Right.
And so, but I met my wife online, and she was living in another state and everything. And when it started getting, hot and heavy, and we knew that we were going to spend the future together,
right?
I basically went from being a adult male bachelor to having a wife, a teenager in high school.
Oh, wow.
And then within 16 months of that, two newborn children, like infant children.
Really?
And so within 24 months, I went from zero to like a house full.
Oh my gosh.
One who was, again, a teenager.
Oh yeah.
One and a teenager who had already, been formed, basically. This. So she was in her, I think sophomore year when she, when I met her.
Well, at least you got past like the middle school age of like all that kind of.
Yeah, but
he's getting ready for it now, though.
Well, let me tell you. So it was very interesting. So I kind of understand your situation, right, Stoney, from that standpoint, and that I did have one who had already been raised by someone else, and so that was very interesting. And I'll never forget. I was very, very careful to make sure that our relationship, that there were permissions within that, and that she was comfortable, because these were big decisions we were making back then. One was, you're going to, be willing to move states.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to be willing to, go to high school with people you don't know.
Yeah.
You're going to, and so I made sure that I included her in all of those conversations and so forth. But when the rubber met the road and they got here and the trailer was unpacked, with all of the stuff in it, and then everything starts settling in, then it becomes more about the relationship.
Oh, right.
And so then it was kind of a moment of, I remember my first feeling of parenthood. I was reaching a hotter and hotter boiling point within me until finally I looked across the table at my new stepdaughter and said, if you think I'm going to sit here and condone this behavior any longer, you're wrong, because I'm not.
Oh, shit.
And so you better get it together, and you might want to go do that over there.
Right.
And I meant every
word of course.
So I could see Rachel's eyes get about this big around,
That was your transition from adult to parent.
Here's daddy,
Well, wow.
And my situation is somewhat similar. Hottie Doctor has 3 kids.
Right.
2 of them actually moved out two weeks before I met Hottie Doctor.
Oh, really?
I mean, so
very recent.
At the time we met, she literally had a full house.
Oh, yeah.
And then Magnus is left over. But when I got there, the ex-husband and all 3 kids were basically abusing her.
Mm.
They were running just ramshot right over her, screaming, hollering. Magnus had zero control in his life. And I walk in full of piss and vinegar, kind of like what, X-Man says here. Well, this is over. This is done. We're not going to allow that.
Right.
And subsequently, we found some stuff out about Magnus as far as diet and some conditions that we've had to evaluate and look at, and that's shocking.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't expect that,
especially from I can only imagine from your perspective of not being a parent already, and then kind of having to fill that role.
Because I was growing up, you didn't walk into a school and have a sheet of paper that has 10 diagnoses on it.
Right.
Okay. You got your ass beat.
Right.
First week of high school.
Right.
Woodshop makes the principal and the assistant principal a new paddle with the holes in it, and they burn it, and they,
aerodynamic.
That's exactly the higher the speed, whatever.
Right.
That's my generation. Did they paddle in yours?
Oh, I remember my principal's paddle hung behind his head on his wall, and it said,
a trophy.
And it said the Board of Education.
Oh my God! No,
I was so afraid. I was so afraid of it.
So even discipline is different now.
Yeah, very.
And it's like,
or lack thereof.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things, we've kind of talked about in other podcasts. It's like, we don't want to discipline our kids, but then we expect the police and the teachers to raise our kids for us and handle them. Well, It starts at home.
Yeah.
If you can't handle them at home, how are you expecting other people? We need to train the police better. We need to train the teachers better. No, we don't. We train our kids better.
House train our kids.
They have zero respect for anything.
Well, and the problem with that too is that often in a blended family, you have different boundaries with different people, right? And so, they have been given freedoms by that point, and to take those back is hard.
Right.
It's really hard.
Magnus is learning that the hard way right now.
It's hard to take that back.
Just so I can have some perspective in my own life. If you don't mind me asking, how old were you whenever you had that 2-year transition of going from being a standalone guy to be,
I was in my early 30s.
Really?
And,
okay.
Yeah. And so that it was so shocking.
Right.
And so,
because that's that's kind of that transitional point where I'm at, where it's I'm approaching that time frame as well. So it's just to think of myself in your shoes as well, of I'm just making money and living life and doing my
fun
best.
fact. Try doing it almost at 60.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I thought I had it bad. I'm kind of like, well, but there's such shocking things,
right?
And then the difference between, and here's the other thing. So when we started having our children as a couple, then my stepdaughter got pissed. Oh, she was so angry.
Why is that?
It was embarrassing. You're dropping me off at high school as a pregnant mom.
Oh,
that kind. No. You don't understand.
Okay.
She wouldn't even talk to us.
Really?
Oh, she was furious when we told her we were pregnant. She was not happy. She did not celebrate. She did not look forward to her baby brother being born. There was no joy in it. And for 2 months after that, she did not say 2 words to us because she was so put off with us. And it wasn't until my niece came for a visit, and she's her age, and they went off somewhere. They drove off in a car and went to eat or something. And when they got back, I don't know what happened, but something in their conversation clicked for her.
Wow.
And the ice melted. There was a definite, quick thaw.
Did she take her out behind the woodshed and beat the shit out of her?
I don't know. She wasn't old enough. She was her peer more than, they were very close. And
you can still get your ass whooped by a peer if you're doing something wrong.
I think my niece just spoke wisdom into her somehow.
Wow.
I never did find out what was said or what the change was, because, I didn't feel like that was my business to know. And if she wanted me to know, she would have told me. But there was some real defining moments in our relationship, real defining moments where it was, we're going to test we're going to test to the extreme
Right.
who has the power in this relationship.
Right.
And so those are hard moments in a relationship because they don't feel good. And so they're hugely challenging. But when all of that resolved, and when we said we were having the next one, it kind of was the same reaction.
Really?
Yeah. So all of it's great now, and these kids couldn't love each other more.
Right.
Really?
And so all of that's kind of fixed itself,
Water underneath the bridge.
without me intervening, I didn't have to like do anything or overthink it, so there's definitely a closeness and stuff like that now, but it was a wild
rocky
start.
season, yeah. Yeah, for me, I had my original parents throughout my entire childhood, but so my dad worked as like a paramedic offshore, so he worked in the Gulf, and so he would whenever he would go to work, he would have to pack up and drive so many hours and take a helicopter off the coast to this oil rig, and he would stay out there because the money was great. And so, the thing was, I remember, throughout my childhood, my mom was always around, and then my dad would be there, because he worked 2 weeks home, or he worked 2 weeks offshore, and then he was home 2 weeks. So it was every other 2 weeks he was here and gone. And so, I remember, my mom homeschooled me, my younger brothers, because she was kind of also a little stingy. She was these are my babies, and she kind of always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom for the most part. And so she was I'm just go ahead and teach them. I have all this curriculum. We can do it all. And then I remember whenever my dad was home, it was kind of the pressure was off. So I would always have it would just be reading, writing, and arithmetic. We wouldn't do all the extra work while my dad was home, so we could have more time to have fun with dad. So my dad was always seen as this kind of fun, kind of the rules were kind of loosened up when he was around. We could always kind of have fun, and I always felt very comfortable around my dad. But my mom had to eventually just be the kind of taskmaster, the one to kind of discipline us, because again, she was the one that was always around and would kind of have to deal with our shit a lot of times. And at one point in time, my brothers and I were each 2 years apart. So there was a point in time where I was 8, my middle brother was 6, and then my youngest brother was 4. And we were just 3 boys in this small house, just causing a ruckus and eating around a house and home and stuff. And so I always remember I remember even as a younger kid having this fear and respect towards my mom, which I think I've talked about before, in the previous episodes with my dad. So I always had a really nice loving relationship with my dad. And then I always felt with my mom, I had this kind of
authoritative.
Yeah, almost fear, with certain things, because I knew if I did something wrong, she was gonna crack down on me.
Yeah.
Whereas my dad would probably be more oh, it's whatever. Yeah. So a lot of times, and I abused that a couple of times.
Yeah,
but
the difference is today kids don't have any fear.
Right.
Magnus isn't scared of shit.
Yeah.
He ain't scared of shit.
I remember
some of the stuff he pulls. We were never even conceived of back then. In my time.
Well, and kids speak differently and communicate differently because the world's hyper communicative now.
Oh,
and
right.
so they're YouTubing and all of this sort of stuff. And I mean, they're so far advanced than we were growing up that it's not even apples to apples. Not even apples to apples.
We had a camera system. One of them was pointed at the front door so that Hottie Doctor could see when packages were being dropped off. And he disassembled that camera, brought it to his room.
Wait, what?
Deregistered it in her name, registered it again in his name.
Wow.
Had the camera pointing at the room so he could see when we were going in his room when he wasn't there.
Oh.
Because he spends a week at his dad and a week with us.
Wow.
So he could tell when we were
how innovative. I mean, to be honest.
In a way, you got to think, that's pretty smart.
That's pretty great. That's a little too smart for your own good, but I mean, hey, kudos.
Yeah. My kid ever does that. He's going to get that camera wrapped around his little neck.
Well, he almost did.
Right. But but to go back to my situation for a second, I remember whenever I was going through my my preteen teenage years where like I wasn't like I think I learned that respect from my mom at like a young age. And so like a lot of times like I think that kind of shaped me into who I was. Like I think as far as like being respectful, like especially in like a public setting, but like almost to like in certain ways a detriment, because I think I was a little too socially awkward because I was also homeschooled, and we used to do things outside of the house and like group events and stuff, and they had like a co-op of some things where they were all like these different kids together. So I had like exposure, but I feel like sometimes I felt like I didn't quite like live into my full personality sometimes. But then like as I kind of went into my teenage years, I think I really learned to love my mom, like for just always being there. And even though she kind of like smothers a little bit and kind of like, some people will probably say overbearing, I realized I was like, I would have rather have that than of course have a mom that's not present.
Yeah.
Or is abusive in some way. And so I think I learned the hard way of like, I did have a good set of parents. And again, even though they had their disagreements and then eventually later in life they divorced, I think I still was raised like having this, like, I have two good parents that love me and I know they love me, even though they're probably a little too much. In my teenage years, as I kind of got out and was in my own individuality, I was like, oh yeah, this is like, you know, what it's like to be on my own, and I can like be my own person and like be a social person. And like, I think I kind of grew into all that, but
I'm just impressed because I thought that you were raised by a pack of wolves in the Canadian wilderness. I'm totally kidding, dude. But that's cool. That is cool. But you know,
but how is that going to translate to you being a parent? What are you going to bring from it? Because we're talking about, you know, real shit that's going on here. And how are you going to?
Well, so is he. It's just from a flip side. You know, it's from the kid's side. So I think what I hear you say is that, you know, maybe that the relationship between your mother and father, it was clear they were really different people and maybe not on the same parent page.
Yeah, right.
But you still found a great deal of love and support within that. But somebody had to be the authority. And see, that's the thing. It's like you've got to get on the same page with your partner on parenting stuff, because not every single challenge with parenthood is relational. Some of these challenges are situational. And let me tell you, they're scary as hell. I mean, I'll never forget the first time I put my son in the back of our car in a car seat and driving him home from the hospital, I'm going to kill this child on accident.
Oh, no.
You know, I what in the hell am I doing? Like, I have absolutely zero business pretending like I'm capable of caring for another human being, only to have that pretty much proven true on a daily basis, because it's kind of like, oh my God, like I dropped my phone on my baby's face one time while he was in the crib, you know, like, whoops, sorry, you know, but you know, to me, no big deal, but to him, you know, giant glowing, you know, rectangle hits him in the face, you know, so there's just stuff, that goes along with this. And then also that very same car trip, I'll never forget rounding the corner into our neighborhood and Rachel looking at me and saying, "Hey, I need you to run up to Burlington and I need you to buy me a breast pump." Right. Oh man. And I'm like, "Excuse me."
What a lovely experience.
Like, no, I really do.
We pull in the parking lot and you run in and get it.
Right.
I was so I like walked into Burlington. I looked at the sales associate and I said, "I want the most expensive breast pump.
Give me the best thing you can get.
I want every gadget, bell and whistle you can imagine. Give me the primo breast pump."
Right.
Because I didn't know what I was doing. And it was amazing that those kids lived through me.
I've done that with a heating blanket before. I'm like, I don't know what I'm talking about, but I've got a woman here who is in a really bad spot, and this lady was like, "Don't worry, I got you figured out." And I was like, "Thank you."
Yeah, I mean,
give me whatever. I'm
clueless. I'm the clueless husband.
Yes, exactly.
Clueless husband.
You know, it's kind of interesting that tens of thousands of books have been written on parenting, but yet they still don't come with the owner's manual.
Oh, I know.
You know, I mean, they just don't. I mean, you can have your opinion on something. It works for your kids. May not work for mine.
Well, it's scary.
Because the kids are situational in themselves. Like, I like what you said. But the kids have their own challenges.
And they do. And like Caleb, you know, his thing was medical. He had a lot of like whooping cough and, that kind of stuff growing up.
Yikes.
And so lots of breathing stuff. And I would wake up and hear him, grasping for breath.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'd have to rush him to the hospital. And,
Yikes.
I'm up there and Rachel's like, do you want me to do it? And I couldn't.
Yeah,
I could not
no.
let anyone else do it because I felt like, so I've become in our relationship kind of like the doctor guy. So when the kids need medical attention, Daddy does it.
Right.
And it's because I just have that fear constantly
Oh,
that they're going to die on my
Right.
watch, and like I said, life has taught me that could possibly happen. And
Right.
I'm joking about it now, but I'll tell you the situation that happened to me that I'll never forget. And where that comes from, I kind of figured it out. So in my family, my mom was married to the father of all my brothers and sisters, not my father, but their father. And so at 7 years old, she had twins, and at 7 years old, one of the twins died of leukemia. And so they could not get beyond that. They could not get beyond the pain of that. It ruined their relationship. It busted the family up. And so I'm a product of that breakup. So I was kind of the grudge, grudge sex
Right.
that they were doing, getting back and forth at each other for finding comfort in other people's arms.
Oh, wow.
And so anyway, that, while it formed our family and is the purpose, one of the reasons why I'm here, it puts something in you. It puts something in you. So anyway, we had just moved in into a house here, and they had just opened a brand new community swimming pool. And my youngest kid, was there, and it was a big opening for the pool, and she was eating. There was maybe 150 people gathered for this thing. There was lots of food there and music and people swimming right and left. It was packed. And so anyway, but my daughter was eating with us, and she said, Daddy, can I go get something? Can I go get some dessert? And I said, sure. So Rachel and I are sitting there talking to one of our neighbors, and I look over and hear all this commotion, and I see a man come up fully dressed out of the swimming pool, and he lays a little girl on the side of the pool, and it's my daughter.
No.
Oh, my.
I know it's my daughter. And so, all of that fear came rushing in that single moment. Of course I was up at like a bolt of lightning, and in that swimming pool so fast your head would spin. But all the way there, it was like slow motion, playing it over in my mind. Even I remember yelling, no, no, no. And I mean, like being so scared of what was about to happen. Well, while I'm going around the gate to get into this thing so that I can get to her, the lady that had pulled her out of had taken her from the guy, was a nurse from one of the local hospitals here. And she gave her CPR. And just as I reached down to get her in my arms and pick her up, she coughed up the water. But y'all, she had blue lips.
Oh, wow.
She was gone. And so I nearly lost my daughter that night. And, I took her to the hospital. I did everything that I was supposed to do. And of course, at the hospital, they're grilling us. Like, how can a situation like this happen? Tell me again, what happened? I mean, they made us tell them the same story 6 times because they wanted to hear it 6 different ways to make sure that we weren't being negligent. And so it already makes you feel like crap, that anything like that could happen on your watch.
An honest mistake happens and you feel like it's your fault. Almost.
Yeah, totally. And so what she had done is she slipped off her life jacket because she was wet, and so she wanted that off, but when she jumped back in, she forgot to put it back on.
Oh, my.
And then she didn't tell us that she was going to do that. I thought she was just going to go get dessert. So anyway, I got home that night. Rachel stayed up at the hospital to spend the night with her, and I got home with our other child that night. And I just bawled. I just started crying, and I called my sister and just I shared with her everything, and we both just cried. She started crying on the phone, and I was like, every fear that I've ever had about being a parent just came true.
Of course.
Everything that I ever thought about, oh my God, I have no business
Yeah,
being
right.
in charge of someone else
Wow.
in their life. And so that to me is another big challenge. It's not just relationship, it's situational. But I'll tell you one thing, it exposes your true love for them, like how much you really love them, because there was no sweeter sound than her breathing, and her, knowing that. And so, it all happened so fast.
I can imagine.
So I just learned two things from that situation. And one of them is that you need to be more compassionate for people who have this experience. Number one. Number two is I had a lot more compassion for my mom because I was pretty unforgiving and kind of a jerk even about her and how she treated us growing up and stuff. But now coming from that experience, that kind of opened my eyes and gave me new compassion for her.
Well, you can never take your eyes off of them.
None, ever. None.
Oh, man.
And me coming back from a security type background, Magnus doesn't understand, I want motion detectors, lasers,
whole 9 yards.
Touch pads on the outside of the windows in case somebody is looking in or he tries to get out, and you just can't do it. Yeah. And that's coming back from my time, Ian's time here, man, people are crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are crazy.
Well, they're having less kids.
Yeah. Well, having less kids, but kids are being lifted left and right now.
Yeah.
Milk boxes are full of pictures of kids. You can't put one picture of a kid on there. Now you got to put 4 or 5 pictures of kids on the milk boxes.
I'll never forget. I thought this was a very funny experience. After my dad told me later in life how funny it was, we both shared it as adults, and I thought it was very funny. Both my parents told me about this, but I think I was like 6 or 8. It was between that age range. And we were in this this not great part of town. It was okay, and it was like kind of a lower income part of town. My parents were living around there, and we were in this small little 2-3 bedroom house or whatever. And they were doing pretty good for themselves. And we were already kind of talking about moving into something bigger because it was just not enough for us 3 boys, rambunctious as normal, and then my 2 parents as well. And so they were like, let's get something that's a little bit bigger, a little more roomier, kind of looking around, some part that's a little bit better, more a quiet place in town or whatever. And so that was a thing that they were talking about. But I'll never forget, my dad had said I was staring out the window and across the street, there was a man, it was kind of at night at some point, and there was a man breaking into the house across the street. And I was I forgot what I was looking outside for, but I was like, Dad, look, our neighbor's trying to get into the window. And my dad obviously knew that wasn't our neighbor, and he was like, yeah, let's go ahead and let's go inside and let's go ahead and call 911, and of course I having all the lights and all this stuff and all the police officers and everything. My dad was definitely let's go ahead and go towards a different part of town.
Yeah. We better
get
out of here
exactly.
now.
But my dad also told me, he was again, because of how the development was in that area, it was just ripe with all kinds of other bad folks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he was there was a shooting that happened at a gas station, I think, as we were driving by, and my dad had no idea until the altercation was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was after that happened and after that situation happened at the gas station, I think my dad was this is not a safe place for my family.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And it was having to really pick up our lives and go somewhere else was that was the first or only time I really moved in my life. And it was for the better, because that house was the house I really grew up in. The one we moved into, that house is still in the family, and it has so much nostalgia for me. But my dad was telling me about that, regaling the stories of being I cannot believe what was going on. He was like, how did we get here? So,
yeah, right.
Well,
I mean, those are important questions. And I tell you, I think one of the things too that you realize is that there are so many parents out there who are, you know, they have it. It's not only hard to just be a parent in great conditions.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know,
and then when,
but
the bad
then you
times,
start layering that with the complexities of economy and socioeconomics and you know, poverty and you start putting in
job loss
real you start adding on life you know, to that. It can really be unbearable. And so I understand, you know, like this is why we have to work together so much and keep those kids in mind.
Takes a village to raise a family.
It does. Oh my God, it so does.
Think about, you know, our time, you know, kids were seen, not heard.
Right.
You know, the way we were raised was really, really different. And so we were eager to become adults at 13, 14, and 15. That's when we really thought we should be adults and make our own decisions. Yeah. Kids, because of, you know, technology and the information age and the way we communicate, that's 10, 11, and 12 now.
Well, yeah, and the average age for a person and their first time sexual experience is now 15.
Right. It used to be 16 and 17.
Right. So, I mean, it's just crazy what they learn and what they, you know, what they say, some of the stuff that they come home with saying and stuff. So, I mean, but I will tell you this, as much as there are all of these really hard challenges and stuff, there is a very rewarding side to parenthood. And
I have something to look forward to.
You do. So about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was laying on the couch, and it was wind down time. Everybody had brushed their teeth, and we were praying and having Bible time. And my son, you know, Rachel kind of puts our daughter to bed. I put our son to bed, and our son, in just the sweetest, most tender, most innocent, unprompted moment, said, "Dad, if I lined all the dads up in the world, I would pick you because you're the best dad."
Oh.
And I was like, oh my God, where did that come from? I mean, like, you know, but there are just these moments where you're just like, oh my God,
but you see,
you are a good human being.
It comes down to situational. Okay. If Magnus were to say that about me, I would be waiting for him to tell me what his deal was, something he wanted.
Okay. What do you want?
He wants something out of this.
Yeah. He's going to butter you up real nice.
He's buttering me up for something.
Yeah. Right.
And they'll do that too, trust me.
Of course.
I noticed how much the behavior in my home has improved since birthdays and Christmas are now right around the corner, you know?
Of course, yeah. Everyone's trying to get on the good list.
Yeah, it's amazing. Amazing what a little Santa hostage taking will do.
Wrap a couple extra presents that are empty. When they start misbehaving, toss the empty one on the fire.
Study, you're so mean.
Oh man, wow. I've never thought of that. That's so bad.
Well, we're here to offend and help.
Oh, of course.
So. But I'll tell you what's also, I raise an aloof kid. Yeah, that kid, he may be sweet, but he is, I mean, we walked into his elementary school one night for their big open house. Walk in, and I look up, and there's this huge like poster board thing of like the paw pal of the month or something, because they were the hound dogs or whatever.
Right.
Our kid is right front and center, and there's a big picture of him.
Right.
He has been like recognized in his school as one of these star students. And he's never told us anything about it, not even mentioned it.
Wow.
There's no mention. We're sitting there looking at it.
Yeah, and you're like, wow.
We're like, dude.
Impressive.
What is up with this? Like, what? When did this happen?
Right.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, are you serious?
He's such a little boy.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean,
it's just like, so it's funny because, you know, they're just kind of living on their own planet, and the oxygen's great. And, you know,
no responsibilities, no bills, no nothing.
Of course. Must be nice.
Yeah.
And if it's not bugs or trucks, it probably doesn't really matter in the long run.
But if you ever want to, like, a good form of birth control, have two.
Oh, no.
Have two within 16 months of each other. Have two. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, I was single for a really long time.
Right.
You know, with my job, I traveled a lot. You know, I had girlfriends and stuff, and I was actually married for a very short period of time, you know, long time ago. Mm-hmm. And I had a stepdaughter then. And back then, I did a lot of research. I wanted to know stuff.
Right.
So, not that I needed counseling, but I went to counseling because I was going to be a new stepfather.
Yeah.
you know, and I went to learn, kind of like our weekly meetings probably should be, you know, bi-weekly. Or,
Oh, bro, listen, just annual counseling's good. It's just good anyway.
Because I wanted to learn, you know, and the counselor was like, you know, a couple things you got to understand, you know, nothing's personal. Well, what do you mean nothing's personal? They're going to do and say stuff that you think is a direct attack on you.
Right.
It's really not.
Right.
It's really not. It's just the way they are. Well, what happens if they say they hate me and screw you? Well,
Right.
You know, 10 minutes later, they're going to be in your arms
Loving
on you.
Exactly.
You know, and, you know, that I had my stepdaughter then was 3 to 5.5, almost 6 years old.
Wow.
So it was a vastly different experience than what I have with Super Magnus.
Exactly.
You know,
The only thing I fear, though, more than me killing them on my watch is them killing each other on my watch. You know, like there are some knockdown dragouts that go on that sound like a volcano eruption.
Yeah, my money's on the daughter.
I mean, yeah, well,
my money's on the daughter.
Yeah, that's probably a safe bet. Who, by the way, turns 9 tomorrow.
Wow.
What?
Are you
She
ready?
let me know today.
There you go.
Definitely let me know.
Right,
Last
of course.
single-digit birthday in my house. Oh,
That you know of.
Here we go.
that's not a 4-footed friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 9. I can't even believe it. I mean, time is just don't blink in parenthood because the time goes so fast. And part of
Maybe
it,
I could try that. Maybe I could blink and like 2 or 3 years will be gone.
It's funny when days are really hard. I just look at Rachel and go, "It's just 8 more years.
Oh, come
8.
on, just a few more.
8.
Well,
We can do
it's
anything
fun,
for
you
8
know,
years."
when Magnus is on his roll,
Yeah.
I say 18 in a day.
There we go.
What do you mean by that? You moving out 18 in a day.
Right.
You would kick me out on my birthday? Nope.
No.
Next day.
The next day.
18 in a day.
Bright and early.
love it.
That's right. 6 a.m., buddy.
Yeah.
Get your
Right.
shit.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Caleb thinks I'm moving in with him.
Right.
I'm like,
No.
I would never choose you.
Right.
You wouldn't keep house.
Oh, man.
I've seen your room. There's no way.
Hey, he has time to grow.
I can pull more dishes out of that kid's bed than I can pull from my china cabinet.
Wait.
Seriously,
They
it's so
went
gross.
to clean-
It's like
They went to
6
clean
socks.
Magnus's room
Yeah,
one day.
yeah.
They found 19 uneaten sandwiches.
Yeah.
Uneaten? What the heck?
That
Uneaten
is so
sandwiches.
gross.
Is he just like a pantry in there?
That's I ate all my dinner. Can
Under
I
his
have a piece
bed,
of
I
candy?
think.
right.
I ate all my dinner. Can I have a piece of candy?
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's what I
Hey,
get.
right.
He does the same
He
thing.
does the same. Yeah, no.
I
bullshit.
mean, it's so
Oh, yeah.
gross. It's like, oh, hey, cool. Socks, a macaroni and cheese, you know, a
Right,
microwave of macaroni and
Yeah.
cheese, 16 orange peels.
And hear me
You
out.
Well, he
Hear me
thinks
out.
he's being sneaky.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Uh-oh.
all of a sudden he gets really quiet in the house. And
Oh,
we're in the back.
I have a good story for you
All
guys.
right, give me one
Yeah,
second.
I got it.
Give
Yeah,
me-
yeah.
And so we have cameras in all of the public areas of the house.
Right.
Okay, not
Yeah,
bathrooms.
kitchen.
Not
living
bad.
Thank you
room.
for not
Yeah.
being creepy.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Okay, but we need to know what's going on with Magnus. So all of a sudden he gets really quiet.
Oh,
I mean, really quiet.
yeah. Like too quiet.
Really quiet. You can't even hear the TV.
Uh-oh.
And so I clicked the camera on.
You're
Oh,
like,
dude's
wait.
sitting on the couch. He's munching on candies, nuts, and throwing everything in the cushions
no.
of the couch.
Come on.
And I'm like, really?
Yeah, come on,
So
guy.
we went out there, and there was crap all in the couch.
Oh, no.
We had to pull all of that out, get the
Vacuum it all
industrial vacuum out, and
Jeez.
I'm like, really? It's like if you ever hear quiet or it's too late.
Yes.
It's too
Yeah,
late.
yeah,
if
yeah.
you hear you're
Yeah.
done. It's
Yeah.
too late.
You were at least 2
Yeah.
minutes too late.
Yes.
right,
I'm
right.
like, really? Come on.
Yeah.
Man.
So I always accuse my wife of knowing, like, you know, what she was doing with our last one.
Right.
Because after having, you know, a full-fledged teenager
Mm-hmm.
and a new infant son who
Yes.
didn't let me sleep for 6 months.
Right.
You know, after that, I there has to be some kind of brain eraser or something that
Right.
happens for us to ever even consider another one. But I'm going to tell you what, she took Olivia from me.
Really?
She took Olivia intentionally from me. I think she brainwashed me somehow.
Oh, no.
I think I was gagged and blindfolded and put into a dark bedroom, and I believe that I was just had been taken advantage of. And then the next thing I know, she's announcing to us that we're pregnant again.
Wow.
So I'm pretty sure there was a hostage situation because
Really?
there's no way that my
Right.
reasonable mind would have gone in for seconds
Right. You-
on the Parenthood page. much. But
it was anesthesia. She went ahead and got you.
Chloroform.
Then she has postpartum, and I'm the one that keeps the little girl alive for 6 months, so mommy doesn't eat her, right?
Of course.
And so I'm kind of like, you better be glad for your daddy, girl, because your mama would chew you up like a hamster.
Sometimes you do know why lions eat their young.
Why?
You have kids, don't you?
Oh yeah. That's exactly why.
That's exactly why they eat them.
Yeah, I do this.
So you're like, when you're at that situation, but I tell you what, I took matters in my own hand. I was like, hey girl, don't you worry. I got you, boo. Right. I went so fast to the doctor's office. I'm like, I don't care what you have to snip, but you make sure that you cauterize it, crimp it, tie it in a knot, like whatever you have to do to ensure that this never happens again. Do it. Right. I'll put 16 bags of frozen peas between my legs for 40 years if I have to, because I'm not doing this again.
Wow. So that's wonderful.
There's my testament to parenthood. I know. I'm so proud.
Oh, that's okay.
You're just nasty.
Whatever, dude. I'm just honest.
Dude, I remember going back to like how messy your boys are. I remember being in a house with having 3 young boys. Like we would never have like a full matching set of silverware. It would always be like there was always like half the forks or spoons are missing, and they were always Lord only knows where.
I know where in your bed mattress. They're down.
Yes.
They're in between things
underneath the bunk bed, in the toy chest. Yeah, all that good stuff. Or cups. Another thing was cups. We have plastic cups. Those would just be everywhere.
Why is it so hard to get boys to just shower? Brush your teeth and shower.
You know what our biggest...
I showered when? Day before yesterday, you smell like ass.
Right, exactly.
You smell like a nasty foot.
So true.
Why is it so hard? Just do simple things. Wake up in the morning, take a shower.
And they will flat out lie about the last time they took one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Flat out lie.
Did you brush your teeth? No, with all this stuff in their teeth. We can look at you and tell that you did not brush your teeth.
Now, let me tell you why our boys are screwed, though. Stoney and my boys.
Okay.
Because they're in the same class at school.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So Stoney and I get to compare notes now.
That's right.
We moved into the very close neighborhoods.
Wow.
And now our children go to the same school. And I can't tell you how glad I am, because the other one can corroborate what the events in the classroom were that day.
Because I learned a valuable lesson. Okay, see, when I first met Magnus, he was in A school.
Right.
And then we would get these wonderful little technology snippets on their day. Got a positive for this, got 4 negatives for this, and this. Well, you really don't know what the negatives are.
Oh, okay.
Okay, misbehaving. Well, what the hell does that tell me?
Elaborate.
That don't tell me inappropriate computer use. In my head, I'm going, oh my God.
Yeah, what does that mean?
What?
Yeah, right.
And so I put him in a camp where I knew the counselors, and I knew the director of the camp for the summer. So I get the first phone call. Magnus had a bad day. All right, tell me exactly what he did.
Yes.
So through this whole camp scenario, I got really good information.
Yeah.
Right.
I knew exactly what he was doing.
Right.
So school starts, and I'm going, I can learn from this.
Yeah.
So I went to a parent-teacher conference, and I says, can y'all please write down what he does?
Right.
Don't just say he had a bad day. Don't just say inappropriate. Tell me what he did. And well, most parents don't want that information. I think most parents don't have Magnus for a kid.
Right. I don't think
okay. I think you need to understand. I need to know what I'm dealing with.
We need to know how his criminal mind works.
Yes.
Right. Exactly. Because if he ever used his powers for good, he would be unstoppable.
Right.
And so he comes in. Oh, I got a bad mark today. Yeah, what did you do? Well, the teacher screamed at me. No, this is what you did.
Yeah.
Right.
And he looks at you like, how do you know that? And I says, you don't worry about how I know that.
Right.
Okay, you don't worry about it. So you have to stay
Yeah.
one step ahead.
Oh, man.
And you can never let your guard down. You can love them, hug them, you know, but when you're hugging them, make sure they're not lifting your wallet. Make sure you're not taking your pocket
or
change.
about to stab you with a paper clip.
Oh, man.
Or something. You have to be right there, especially today. Because there's so many things. They know. You'd have never thought about reprogramming a camera, but you can get on YouTube. You can get on Google now and find absolutely anything you need, and they're good at it. They're better at technology than us, especially old farts like me.
Oh, man.
And you literally got to stay one step ahead.
Yep.
And it's tiresome.
So let me tell you the good side of this thing, because I don't want people listening and going, "I'll never have children," or you like I don't know.
Oh, yeah, you already got
the advantage is he gets alien children. They'll be smarter.
Well, that's
you
true.
You already
That's
kind of
true.
scaring me off as we're speaking.
But I'll say this, I was able to attend my stepdaughter's wedding
oh, wow.
last year. And so getting to see somebody be beautiful like her mother is, and to go into a loving relationship like her mother did, and seeing that be passed on in her, watching her grow into a woman of faith, who's a good citizen, who cares about our country, who is passionate and all of that.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. And then, when she announced that she was pregnant, which by the way, she should be having the baby any moment.
Ooh. Really?
Mm-hmm. And so, there is this beautiful legacy.
Yeah.
For so many years, I watched my grandparents die, and then I watched my parents die, and all of that. And so it felt like your family was shrinking.
Mm-hmm.
But now the generation that my brothers and sisters and I have, created through our kids, are starting to have kids.
Wow.
And so
your
the
family's
beautiful
gonna start
thing,
growing again.
well, it already is. And so my sister and I were talking yesterday, and she's like, "Oh my God." She's like, "I just woke up this morning and realized I have to go buy more stockings because I have 10 stockings on my fireplace this year."
Wow.
Right.
So she now has 3 grandchildren.
Wow.
And is about to get a 4th. And so, so it's really, really cool to see your family expand and your family kind of get big again.
Especially with a situation like that. And I can only imagine like going into a situation like you were saying, she was like at like 10 to 13, you were saying? Yeah. So it's like having that, like you're already she's already established. She's already like kind of has her ways.
Yeah.
And then to go through all that stuff you've gone through, I guess, to look back on it now.
And go, I had something to do with that.
Yeah. Even in some small part, just the fact that you were there to witness her grow into this person is like a wonderful thing. Because I had, we've talked about this, I think, in previous episodes before. It's like I've had like young kids around, like either cousins or like my mentor's kids and all that kind of stuff. And to have that, like, you can see that you're instilling something into a kid. Or you can see that they're like picking up these little nuanced things, like the way I am today is because of people that I looked up to in some capacity. It's the same thing in that regard as well, of like, oh, I have to watch myself too, because I'm like, because these young people are like picking up so many things.
My son idolizes you. I mean, he does. You're like his, you're like relationship goals for him. Like he is so into that. And so,
it's just so
and my son's cool from the standpoint that he'll suss it out, like he'll go and really decide whether or not someone's for him or not. But he was absolutely crazy for you, which is why you can get him to do anything. Like he is absolutely like smitten with you and your leadership and just your knowledge of tech and and that kind of thing. So he has really, found in you somebody that he looks up to. And I think that's so cool. But it is cool because you pour into them and you wonder like if you're making a difference or not. But I can tell you, like in my wife's daughter's, in my stepdaughter's case, in a lot of ways our relationship is better than the one that she and her mother share. And it's because there's a friendship that also developed and a trust that developed out of that, and
respect,
which kind of goes, we mutually agree that in some ways she's cray cray. Right? So it's kind of one of those where, you have, it's kind of like saying, I can see your side of it too. Yeah. I can see like, your point of view. If I were you, I could understand your feelings. Right. And so, but at the same time, don't you ever let those kids know that there's any kind of, you
can't show weakness.
You can't sweat because they're like sharks. They smell blood and they will absolutely devour.
And there are some little wins in this, I have a side job where I'm a director of security for a church, and Magnus comes with me every other week. And he looked at one of the pastors just out of the blue. I'd like to be baptized. What do I need to do to be baptized?
Wow.
And your heart just sinks.
Yeah.
and you just want to cry.
Right.
And then I'll be getting ready. We'll be taking him out. We're going to go out to eat. And unbeknownst to me, he dresses just like me.
Right.
Same shirt, same. And I'm like, really?
Yeah. Right.
Does his hair. And I'm like, man, this is so cool.
Yeah,
and then you find out, while he's with his dad, he runs away.
Oh no.
Yeah. Where was he coming? To our house. Mm-hmm. We're the disciplinarians. He has no discipline over there.
You've got structure, and he knows the rules, and he knows there's boundaries,
safety and comfort in that.
Well, that's a lot more stable.
Well, that's one of the things this counselor taught me in my first go around at this is, we have very specific job roles.
Right.
And if I can impart this to you, I would love to.
Okay.
Your job is to teach the boundaries, and the kid's job is to find out what those boundaries are.
Right.
And they're going to test you.
Right.
And that's Magnus's, and he's very good at his job.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Magnus is great at his job. He loves testing boundaries. Mm-hmm. And he'll overstep them, jump back over.
Right.
Take 2 steps to the left and try to jump it over it again to see if just the angle is different. Yeah. Can he do it? So you got to stay on top of him.
Right.
But in the end, those little small victories are worth it.
And they'll provide you some of the greatest joys too. I mean, they're just so full of passion and creativity, and the stuff that they say and learn and all that is just amazing. So there's so many good things too about them. And so, I would have to say, it's a big job. Mm-hmm. I really salute anybody who takes it on. And I especially salute those who do it voluntarily, especially if you step up to the plate for where someone else isn't meeting their obligation as a parent, So these people who go into relationships like you, Stoney, where there's a blended family need, I really admire those parents, especially because while they do go into it with some knowledge that that's part of the deal, in a lot of ways, these children have been in woundedness, and they need adult mentors. And also, I just want to say a thing about boys in general, and that is, making sure that if you can expose your child to male mentorship, you really should. And that's not always possible because some, families don't even have a male in them.
Right.
But if you have a son, having a positive male role model in their life, whether it's that send them to a camp or where they can get that, it's really, really important, I think, because that's missing in a lot of our families in the West here in America. And a lot of that is because of the incarceration rates and some of the other things. So this is a great calling, parenthood is, a mentorship in general. And so if you don't have children, one of the things that you can do is you can be the village still.
Right. That's one thing I would like to add to that. Back in my time, you moved down the street from your parents.
Yeah.
So you had your grandparents there, and look, them grannies with them little 1-inch heels, what do you call them, slip-ons?
Yeah.
She could take that thing and flick it. It would go down the hall, take a right, and take a left and hit you in the back of the head in your room.
Yeah.
And somehow she'd have it back when you went into the
kitchen. It's like a boomerang.
Yeah, it's like a boomerang. Yeah. But now we want to move as far away from our parents as we can.
Right.
We don't even want to be within 20 or 30 minutes of them. We don't, and so we're changing that dynamic of the village to being by yourself, and you wonder why you struggle with it.
Yeah.
When you moved 4 houses down from your mom and dad, who were 4 houses down from grandma and grandpa, you had a village.
Right. Yeah.
And in my neighborhood, my first neighborhood, the neighborhood parents were allowed to whoop our asses. Yeah. And if they called and said, I had to whoop your kid's ass, you got another one when you got home for making the neighbor whoop you. Right. Try that today.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Try that today.
Yeah.
You can't even whoop your own kids without social services showing up. Now, by law, you can whoop your kids. But you got like the 20,000 questions you had to go through on that. You're going to get put to the task on that.
Right.
But we've changed the village. Yeah. And that's sad.
Yeah, the village definitely has changed. But there's a lot of inventive ways, too, that people can take place in new kinds of families. So I do appreciate the fact that, male mentoring doesn't necessarily have to come in the form of sports.
Right.
It can
Right.
also come in the
Right.
form of a Zoom, a Zoom violin lesson, or
Yeah.
whatever. Like it can come in other creative ways, and so we just have a lot more options now to get those people in, in front of good influences. And that is not to in any way diminish females, because they're just wired amazingly. Most of the time you have mothers who, God, I mean, it's the hardest job. It really is. I look at my wife and I'm like, oh my Lord.
Right.
Because there are days that I get to check out and go to work.
Right,
And there are
right.
days, and that may seem weird because it's a job, right? But that job is so personal.
Yeah.
And you're so vested in it, and you're afraid that everything you do is either screwing them up or
Yes.
so like you're really imparting something important to them. So I want to salute to every woman out there who's taken on parenthood, because it is a huge job, job.
You have to look at this. You're very careful about who you let around your kid.
Oh,
I'm actually one of the ones blessed and favored to be able to do that. But,
Right.
My kid has 10 numbers in his phone, and you two are 2 of them.
Yeah. Just, I like what you said about the male role model. I think that's part of what's wrong with America today.
Yeah.
Okay. There are, but what's happened to the emasculation? Is that the right word? The emasculation of men?
That would be a good episode.
Yeah. They've destroyed what manhood is. Do I want to be the old John Wayne? No, but I also don't want to be, the new Alan Alda, so sensitive.
Well, inherently, boys have male feelings,
Yes.
and they're wired differently. And there's an adventurousness in that, and but it's not the same, right? It's different.
Even look at the stubbornness of girls and boys. It's still stubbornness, but it is totally
and it's
different.
lived out 2 different ways. And
Yes.
I'm not saying that girls don't need positive girl models. They do, and positive
Male
male
role models.
male role models. Everybody needs both. And I just want to say though that the point isn't to really hash out and offend people over gender. The real truth is that we need positive adult role models for our children, because I can't do it all.
No.
Yeah.
And it's not realistic, and my children won't listen to me on everything, but they'll darn sure listen to you.
On the other end of that is as much as you were watching us around your kids, we're watching you.
Yeah.
And when your daughter or your son runs up and jumps in our arms and hugs us tight, there's not a smidgen of jealousy.
No.
You're proud.
Oh,
You're
God, of
happy.
course.
You can see how happy you are that experience is going on.
Yeah.
Well, we watch the other way too,
Yeah.
because that can be dangerous also.
Yeah.
That's what happened in my first relationship. She was so jealous that my relationship with her daughter was deeper than hers.
Was good. Yeah.
And the day the thunderstorm happened, and I'm the guy. I'm sorry. I'm a man's man.
Right,
I
right.
need to be next to the door. So if anybody gets in, they got to come through me to get to you.
Right.
You've never had kids before. I can hear her as she stops breathing. So I need to be on the door side. Really? Okay, fine. You take that side. So one day a thunderstorm happens.
Uh-oh.
Now, she had a drinking problem. Her daughter walks in, walks all the way around the bed, and crawls up on top of me.
Right.
And she lost
scared.
her mind.
Right.
She lost her mind. She was so jealous. Why did you go to him? Why didn't you come to me? Well, you was drunk,
Yeah.
was the words out of
They
her
know
little
who they
child's
can
mouth.
trust.
All right.
And that's exactly right.
They know.
But
They
that
know.
was also
I-
the day that I knew I was done.
yeah.
I was done. If you're that jealous of your child finding a safe place, because I'm safe,
Right.
Right.
I would never, and
Yeah. If you're not going to look out for the best interest of your own kid,
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's
then
right.
bye, Felicia. Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
seriously.
Yeah,
Like, seriously.
because that is an unsafe situation now for
Right.
everybody. But that's why, as male role models or role
Right,
models
yeah.
for kids, you have to look at the parents too. You have to understand where they're at and where they're going. And I surround myself with people with the same goal and vision.
Right.
Hence this talk show.
Yeah. Right.
Okay,
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So, but our friendship goes deeper than that.
That's right,
I've known you since you was a baby.
Right.
But I've known X-Man here for 2 years. But we looked at each other and said, "This is our vision.
Right.
We're going to look after each other while we get there.
Right.
Who comes along with us is fine.
Right.
but we're not going to let them destroy that vision or that goal either.
That's exactly right.
Right.
We're gonna have a bubble of trust, and
but that's also
Be
why we
careful about
have parenthood conversations often,
Yeah.
because I'm at a loss sometimes.
yeah.
Right.
Well, sometimes you just need to howl at the moon.
Yeah.
As a parent, you just need to
Yeah.
go.
Right.
I'm either crazy right now,
Yes.
or
Because you do get to feel crazy. You gotta, this can't be happening.
yeah.
Right.
You know, I've had,
Especially because like you guys were in that time. I can only imagine for me, like I'm trying to put myself back whenever I was like between 10 and 13 again. And it's like you guys both have boys that are going through this time where it's like it's going to be an emotional time, even for guys. Like, I mean, it's just that time in everyone's life where it's like there's going to be hormones and emotions.
Oh my
and
God, my
everything
daughter's growing
feels-
breast right now, and I'm just like, oh my God.
I know.
You know, like
no, I'm going up to the attic and putting a remote controlled on-off switch on the hot water heater.
Right.
Because when Magnus starts taking 30 and 40-minute showers, I'm just going to hit the remote button, turn the hot water off, and nothing but
Oh, so
Evil.
he's either really, really good at it or really, really bad.
Right. And that's the thing. So like but
you
like,
know how little boys they
Right.
take those long showers,
But it's
and
like-
they
but-
Just
exploring
ew.
and stuff.
but I'm talking about just like
So
the
glad
fact
I have a
that
2-bathroom.
it's just the fact that like you're getting to a point too where it's like everything feels like it's the end of the world, and
To them, it does.
exactly.
Absolutely,
That's what I'm
yes.
saying. But we all know that obviously you're going to make it through it. You're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
Like trust me, especially because I know that you guys are going to take care of your kids, so like they're not going to probably really want for anything or need.
No, and that's
So-
what I told him. I said, "This
so,
is
but
this
like-
is my job by law is to take
Yeah,
care of
right.
what you need,
Yes.
not what you want."
Exactly.
Right.
Okay, and I will take care of everything you need.
Right.
Right now, Magnus is having a hard. He's failing.
Right.
Okay, he's failing in school,
But
and
it's just
so
that-
he walks in the door. He doesn't go back to his room anymore. From 3:30 to 5:30,
Right.
he's at this desk in the kitchen where we can watch him, and you'd think it was the end of the world.
Oh, of course.
He is screaming,
Oh,
losing his
man.
mind. I says, at this point, I don't care what you do.
Right.
You'll sit there.
You're right.
You'll
right.
sit there for the
Yeah.
whole time. Now, if you want to read, you want to do your stuff, great.
Yeah.
Maximize your time. You
Right.
ain't leaving it for no reason.
Yeah.
What if I need the bathroom? Go. I'm going to be
Yeah.
standing right there.
I'll get you a little water bottle you can
Yeah.
pee in. Don't worry
Yeah,
about
right.
it. I'm kidding.
But
yeah.
you have to stay one step ahead of them.
Right.
It's like a
So
battle
true.
almost.
It's so true.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But, like,
They absolutely they conspire too.
How do I get him to just want to read? When I was his
Oh, man.
age, I was reading. I love to read.
You
Books.
take their iPad away. That's what I
We've
did.
done all of that, and it's
I
still
took their iPad away, and they started getting the things that they want based on their AR scores. If they read the books and they get the points, they get the
and that's
treats.
Wow.
that's the area we're going.
Yep.
And that, I think that'll work.
It's the reward system.
How do you not want to read?
I
There's
guess
a
it just
whole world. Man, I
Yeah.
love to sit down and smell the old book and sit down and flip pages. Now, look, I got books on my iPad and my
Right,
phone, and
right,
I can read there. But what's wrong with just sitting down to a good book?
Yeah, that changes.
yeah.
You know,
I think
He's
sometimes it
about
also,
to hit that age where that'll change.
It depends on, I guess, also like what he's interested in too. Is like, I mean, because sometimes like I can read a book that I'm not interested in, and I'm just like I can't finish it. But if it's something that like engages me in such a way, it's like I think finding something. Again, I'm just speaking from my own.
Sure.
'cause
Has he
my-
read Harry Potter?
I don't know.
You should buy him the series for Christmas.
I think he has. I
Yeah.
think so.
It's really
But
good.
It's like, it's just really, really simple.
Mhm.
Just do it. I
Yeah.
found out something amazing about Magnus. What do you want to be? I want to be a TikTok star. I want to be an
Right, right.
influencer. No,
Yeah.
Magnus,
No,
what do
you
you
don't.
really want to be? I had to drag it out of him.
Right.
Dude wants to be a beekeeper.
There you go.
How honorable is
Yeah,
that?
what a
Without
great-
bees, we all die.
right.
You know, I have a friend.
I just happen to know where a bunch are. So if
There
he
you go.
really wants to practice, I can tell him.
There you go.
But how awesome is that? But, he has all of these idols. He wants to be rich. He wants to, and I keep trying to tell him, Magnus, you don't understand.
Yeah.
There are two main rules that every successful person has.
Mhm.
They wake up at 4 a.m. and they read a minimum of 4 books a month. Some
Mhm.
books they don't even like, but they
Right.
still read them for informational purposes.
Right.
And if I could just impart that to him, I would love that. Just read. Pick a book and read
Would
it.
you guys believe me if I told you when I was young I wanted to grow up and be a police officer?
Is that right?
Yeah.
I would believe you because you definitely have a first responder kind of.
Right. My dad
here.
being a paramedic for like my entire life, I just was like, I want to drive a big old police car. I want to be
Still not too late.
I would have guessed.
know you're
I would
right.
have guessed the Canadian Mounted Police.
Stop
And
it.
you know what? That's one we can kick back to. One
Right.
of the rewards of parenthood is
Yeah.
Hottie Doctor's daughter, since age of 5, wants to be a police officer.
There you go.
That's cool.
And because she is a cute blonde girl,
Right.
people have dissuaded her from that. And told even her own dad.
Come on.
You know, he flunked out of the police academy on day 2 or day 1 or something.
Whoa.
And so she's taken a proctor test, and he comes in, causes all kind of trouble, so she fails.
Come on.
But I've actually been able to be part of helping her follow that dream.
That's cool.
Awesome.
And that is just so
Oh,
cool. That's
rewarding.
just, man.
That is cool.
And then
great
for them
time.
to want to listen. When it's something they want, they'll listen.
Oh, of course.
And it's something she's doing and listening, and she's following this dream. And now she's going to be able to be part of an elite police force. And, that's just amazing.
That is really cool.
There's one thing though that we can't wrap up this show without just acknowledging. I was a
Alien babies.
I was such a great kid, way better than all the other kids.
I
mean,
bet.
it was.
I bet.
I never caused any grief.
Especially in your.
I always was so respectful.
Especially in your family dynamic you're talking about, where you had all these older siblings and
you were the baby.
man.
I remember my sister. We lived in an upstairs apartment. She hung me over the railing by my pants legs and shook me up and down, and I started screaming, "Fire! Fire! Fire!" And people would walk out of their apartments, and here's this little kid hanging over the railing. She looked like such a little trash
of
bag doing that
course.
to me, and she could not stand me. And so,
Well, that's actually what you said is the right thing to say. If there's an emergency, always yell fire. Don't yell rape. Don't
Yeah,
don't
fire.
Just say fire because people come running.
That's
I had to save my own life. You got it.
yeah.
Oh man. Anyways, you guys want to touch on anything else before we wrap up this?
This is a subject we could continue on for another
of
2
course.
hours and
Right.
make part 1, 2, 3,
Especially,
and 4.
like I said, it would give this about a few more years. Whenever you guys have boys that are raging with
Oh, yeah.
hormones and trying to back
I
on
think this
girls.
could be a yearly show
Right.
because soon you'll
We'll
start
revisit.
popping them out.
Oh please, no, I'm
and,
not ready.
Yeah.
Right.
There'll be way more whiskey than.
Right.
Like, I need a cocktail. Hurry up.
Oh man, let's go ahead and sit back on this
We
one.
need 2 cigars.
That's right.
This is a 2-cigar night.
Right.
Well,
Well,
I just want to say my heart goes out to all your parents.
oh yes.
Yes.
Even though I'm not even in that.
And to the
boat yet.
step parents that choose this life, it is worth it.
Yes.
Right.
There's some trials, there's some tribulations, but hopefully we touched on a few rewards too, because they are worth it. They are few and far between, but they do way more than the trials and tribulations in the end.
If you don't
Right.
have kids, be an adult mentor because it takes a village and we need you
Yes,
just as much
please.
as we need anybody else.
Instill in somebody.
And if you have that opportunity, take that moment. Take it.
Yeah.
Because it's worth it too.
It is.
Right. Well, thank you so much for listening. If you're looking for us, you can find us on all the major podcasting platforms. You can just type in just Retrospect, and you'll be able to find us. Retrospect Pod is a lot of our social media links. You can also just type in Linktree/Retrospect Pod. Find all of our stuff there. It's really easy. I hope we at least offended one person out there today. Probably.
I'm pretty sure we
Probably somewhere,
Yeah.
something we said, something I said, probably.
Equal opportunity offenders here. So, but until next time, bye-bye.
See ya.
Peace.